What is taxonomy? Taxonomy is a branch of biology devoted to naming and describing organisms. Taxonomy is the science of classifying and naming living organisms based on their shared characteristics. It involves organizing species into hierarchical categories such as kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species. Any particular group of organisms is called a taxon. So, an organism is an individual animal, plant, or even a single-celled life. An organism is a living individual entity ranging from microscopic bacteria to complex plants and animals, capable of basic life functions such as growth, reproduction, and response to stimuli. So Carl Linnaeus discovered the taxonomy. Also known as Carl von Linné or Carolus Linnaeus, is often called the father of taxonomy. His system for naming, ranking, and classifying organisms is still in wide use today. He was the first to frame principles for defining natural genera and species of organisms and to create a uniform system for naming them known as binomial nomenclature. So, Linnaeus was a Swedish medical student studying in Belgium. To help pay his tuition costs, Linnaeus was contracted by a wealthy Dutch patron to catalog all species in her curio cabinets. Linnaeus adopted a system of binomial nomenclature. We have here the higher level classification. The Linnaeus also categorized the natural world into 8 levels of classification. We have the classification system commonly used today is based on the Linnaean system and has 8 levels of taxa. From the most general to the most specific, these are domain, kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species. So the first one is the domain, the highest taxonomic rank in the hierarchical biological classification system, above the kingdom level. There are 3 domains of life. We have the bacteria, archaea, and eukarya. So archaea are single-celled microorganisms with structure similar to bacteria. It is any group of single-celled prokaryotic organisms. And bacteria are small single-celled organisms. Bacteria are found almost everywhere on Earth and are vital to planet's ecosystems. So, it is a group of microscopic single-celled organisms that live in enormous numbers in almost every environment on Earth, from deep sea vents to deep. And eukarya, it is a domain or a large taxonomy group that is made of organisms that contain a nucleus with their cells. It is also the only domain that contains multicellular and visible organisms like people, animals, plants, and trees. So the second is the kingdom. It serves as one of the primary ranks for organizing and grouping living organisms based on their shared characteristics and evolutionary history. So the kingdom has 5 classifications: the Monera, the Protists, the fungi, the plants, and the animals. So the Monera is historically a biological kingdom that is made of prokaryotes. As such, it is composed of single-celled organisms that lack a nucleus. So the characteristic of Monera are, it is a unicellular organisms and they contain 70 ribosomes. The DNA is naked and is not bound by a nuclear membrane. It is like organelles like mitochondria, lysosomes, plastids, Golgi bodies. So it lacks organelles like mitochondria, lysosomes, plastids, Golgi bodies in the plasmic reticulum, centrosome, and etc. So, the kingdom Monera classification has archaea, bacteria, and cyanobacteria. So protists are simple eukaryotic organisms that are neither plants nor animals or fungi. Protists are unicellular in nature but can also be found as a colony of cells. Most protists live in water, dung glands. They are living things that usually make their own food, reproduce but cannot move around. The characteristic of plants are they are eukaryotic and multicellular. Their cells have cellulose walls, majority of transport system. They have photosynthesis, hence autotrophic. Reproduction is both sexual and asexual. They show alternation of generation. The heterotrophic, it is getting its food from other plants or animals or relating to such living things. The autotrophs make their own life, while heterotrophs cannot make their own food, must obtain energy from outside sources. The autotrophs includes plants, some protists, and some bacteria, and while heterotrophs includes animals, fungi, and some bacteria. When we say animal, it contains all animals and it is the largest among the 5 kingdoms. Classification. Animals are classified as 2 main groups in the animal kingdom, the vertebrates and the invertebrates.
5 classification of vertebrates. The first one is fish. Fish are aquatic vertebrate animals that have gills but clumping limbs with digits, like fingers or toes. Second is the amphibians. Amphibian is a cold-blooded vertebrate animal that is born in water and breathes with gills. As the larva grows into its adult form, the animal lungs develop the ability to breathe air, and the animal can live in land. Reptile, a vertebrate animal of a class that includes snakes, lizards, crocodile, turtles, and tortoise. They are distinguished by having a dry skin and typically laying soft-shelled eggs on land. Mammals. A mammal is an animal that breathes air, has backbone, and grows hair at some point during its life. Example, humans. Lastly, birds. Birds are vertebrate animals that have feathers, wings, and beaks. Like all vertebrates, they have bony skeleton. Most birds are able to fly, but some cannot even though they have wings, like ostriches and penguins. Invertebrates. An invertebrate is an animal without a backbone. In fact, invertebrates don't have any bones at all. Invertebrates that you may be familiar with include spiders, worms, snails, lobsters, crabs, and insects like butterflies. Characteristics of invertebrates. The major of living animals are invertebrates. Invertebrates may have incomplete or a complete digestive system. Invertebrates vary in how they move and in the complexity of their nervous system. Most invertebrates reproduce sexually. 5 classification of invertebrates. So the first one is the protozoans, single-celled organisms such as Parameciea. These invertebrates are free-living or can be parasitic. They feed on matter which can be other microorganisms, organic, tissues, or debris. Next, annelids. The annelids includes earthworm, polychaete, worms, and leeches. All members of the group are to some extent segmented, in other words, made up of segments that are formed by subdivisions that partially transects the body cavity. Segmentation is also called the metamerism. Echinoderms. Echinoderms are a group of animals that live in on the ocean. Echinoderms. Echinoderms are a group of animals that live in on the ocean floor. Examples of echinoderms include starfish, brittle stars, echinoids, and sea cucumbers. Mollusks. Mollusks have a very soft bodies and are massively diverse. Many have shells, some live underwater in marine and freshwater environments while others live on land. Last, arthropods. Arthropods are animals that have a hard outside covering called the exoskeleton. Example, the lobsters. So the third classification is the phylum. A phylum is a scientific term grouping together related organisms on the basis of their fundamental characteristics. So here's the 5 phylums of plants. So here are the keywords or key terms. The vascular and the non-vascular. So vascular are those plants which have specialized vascular tissues for them to transport water, minerals, and foods. While the non-vascular, plants that lack roots, stem, and leaves. So the first example of the phylum of plants is the Talophyta. Talophyta is a division of plant kingdom including primitive forms of plant life showing a simple plant body. They are simple plants without root, stem, or leaves. Example, the ulva, chara, cladophora. So here's the characteristic of the Talophyta. They lack a fixed body structure such as stem, roots, or leaves. They are found in damp areas and they are autotrophs. Second is the Bryophyta, informal group name for the mosses, liverworts, and hornworts. Characteristics of the Bryophyta. Plants occur in damp and shaded areas. They lack true vegetative structure and have a root-like, stem-like, and leaf-like structure. Pteridophyta. Any group of a vascular plant that have roots, stem, and leaves, reproduced by spores instead of by flowers and seeds, and includes the ferns, club mosses, horsetails, and their extinct relatives. Here are some of the characteristics of the Pteridophyta. They are seedless, vascular plants that show true alternation of generations. They reproduce by spores. Second to the last is the gymnosperms. Any of a group of a woody non-flowering vascular plants that reproduce naked seeds not enclosed in a true fruit, such as pines, yews, and ginkgos. Characteristics of gymnosperms. They do not produce flowers. Seeds are not formed inside the fruit. They are found in the colder regions where snowfall occurs. They develop needle-like leaves and they are perennial or woody, forming trees or bushes. Last is the angiosperms. Angiosperms are plants that produce flowers and bear seeds and fruits. So the characteristics of an angiosperms, it is a vascular, seed-bearing, fruit-bearing, and flower-bearing.
The 5 phylums of animals. So first we have the Annelida or annelids. So annelida comes from the Latin root word annulus, which means ring. So animals that come from the Annelida is example sandworm, ragworms, and leeches. So next we have the Chordata or the Chordata. So phylum Chordae consists of animals with a flexible rod supporting their dorsal or back fin. So example, a chordate is also a deuterostomic animal belonging to the phylum Chordata. So example of animals that belong to the Chordata is dolphin, which has a rod that supporting his flexible dorsal fin. So next is Cnidaria. Is a phylum under kingdom Animalia containing over 11,000 species of aquatic animals found in both freshwater and marine environments. So example of that is jellyfish, hydroids, sea anemone, corals, and some of the smallest marine parasites just like the isopods. So Cnidaria is from the Greek root word cnid, meaning nettle, a stinging gland. Next is Echinodermata. So, Echinodermata, from the word echinoderm, means spiny skin. This phylum includes animals such as sea stars, sea urchin, and sea cucumber, brittle stars, and crinoids.
So the fifth phylum of animals is what we call Mollusca. It's the second largest phylum of invertebrate animals. So any animal that has a soft body, no spine, and is often covered with a shell. So many mollusks live in the water. Example of that is the oyster and are the snails. So another example also in addition is the cuttlefish. So Next, we have the classification or class is a taxonomic rank or a taxon. It's consisting of organisms that share a common attribute. It is further divided into one or more orders. Example of that is kingdom with animal, human phylum Chordata, and the class Mammalia. So next we have the order. So the order ranks below the class and above the family in the taxonomic hierarchy. The groups in each other than they do with other members of the same class. So examples of that is Mammalia class contains orders such as Chiroptera or bats, and Lagomorpha rabbits, Rodentia, rodents, and Carnivora, large carnivorous or omnivores. So next we have the family. So members of the same taxonomic family are from closely related to each other than they are to other members of the same order. For example, foxes, coyotes, lions, cats, and other weasels. All of these belongs to the order Carnivora. So next is genus. So genus, a class, kind or group marked by common characteristic or by one common characteristic. So the genus name is the genus to which the species belongs, and the specific epithet refers to the species within that genus. Example, Homo sapiens or humans. Homo is the genus and sapiens is the specific epithet. So next is the species. So species are characterized by the fact that they are reproductively isolated from other groups, which means that the organism in one species are important of reproducing with organism in other species. So for example, all pigs are a species. Human from a species, all trees are a species of